Over the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, since about the middle part of February, the stock market has been acting kind of funky. It goes up, then it goes down. It's been very, very volatile. It's actually been heading downward since then. And there's a lot of people that speculate that we'll be going into a recession sometime this year. Some folks are even thinking that we may, with these tariffs, end up going into a bear market. Now, there's some indices are getting fairly close, and we kind of want to go over that today. But I'm here to tell you, to start off with, my crystal ball broke in 2012, and I haven't been able to get it repaired. A lot of the indicators that we looked at prior to 2012 doesn't seem to work anymore. But, Grayson, it seems like to me so many people are worried, and there's not a lot of exuberance in the market like we had back years ago. So I don't think we're at a market high. It feels more like, to me, there is a lot of long-term optimism that our country is headed in the right direction. Things are going to get better. Inflation's going to get under control. It's going to get down to 2%. But there's a lot of short-term fear because people don't really know what to expect with tariffs. Because tariffs, if you study economics, you study history, tariffs have had a bad reputation where people just seem to fear tariffs. And Grayson, give us a little bit about tariffs and what you know about tariffs.
Well, Trump actually talked a lot about tariffs in his campaign, and he pointed back to William McKinley and back kind of after the Civil War and how the United States built a lot of their industry through using tariffs. And so that's one of the upsides of them, is that you get to protect your own industries while you're here domestically. But the downside to that is, like with the auto industry, and how they didn't have to have a whole lot of competition from other countries because they didn't have to deal with the consequences or the competition that came from them, because the other guys would have to pay so much money to get into the market. And so what a lot of these economists take a look at is that, a lot like with inflation, these tariffs will just get passed along to the consumer, and that'll just drive prices higher and higher. So the question here is this the smart thing to do? And Trump seems to think that it is. A lot of economists don't. We'll see what ends up happening.
Grayson, I think a lot of what Trump does is a setup for negotiations. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, I think was the title of it. And I think what he does is he's setting these countries up to negotiate to get them where he thinks they should be compared to the United States. So I think really what he's trying to do is prepare the United States maybe for a little bit of ups and downs in the market, but he's really long-term trying to position the United States to benefit and to pay down some of its debt and really bring down inflation and cause industry to come to this country, which is all positive things. But right now, the stock market is not really liking this, because the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 are down about 9.5% from their highs. You look at the NASDAQ, seems to be more volatile. It's down about 14.25%. But when you look at companies that are smaller companies or micro companies or small companies, the Russell 2000 is down a little bit over 19% from its highs. So we're looking at some of these getting really close to bear market territory, which seems strange because the long-term feel for the economy for the United States seems to be very optimistic. So to me, this feels strange compared to what I have witnessed over the last 30, 35 years in this market. So Grayson, can you add a little bit more about the possibility of why the market is where it's at today?
I think really what it is just the inflation and also the tariffs. See, that inflation was creeping up. It stayed up around 3% in January. We had some good numbers coming in February, so that ought to help a little bit. I think that really what's happening is people are looking at the uncertainty that's going on. They're looking at the House and the Senate and the presidency all being controlled by the Republican Party. That brings up a lot of uncertainty because they don't know what's going to happen. They're looking at these tariffs and they're seeing Canada retaliate, Mexico retaliate, and China is not going down easily. And they're thinking, oh man, we're in the middle of all this. How are we ever going to get out? Is this guy just getting us into something that he can't finish, or does he actually know what he's doing? And so that's a lot of the question marks that are in the air right now. I think that people are just kind of taking a wait and see approach, and some have actually decided to sell. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
So what do you think some of the pundits out there are saying about the probability of us going into a recession?
Well, actually, Polymarket, which was pretty accurate with a lot of their predictions for the election, has come out saying there's a 42% chance that we'll go into recession. Now, a lot of people will put that out and say, oh man, look at this, look what we've got around the corner. But what they fail to also point out is that there's a 58% chance that we don't. So there's still a good possibility that we don't end up going into recession with all this, and that's actually the way that things are leaning right now. And that's kind of the way that we're looking at it too, with the indicators that we're looking at here in the back office. And we're always doing that and trying to make sure that we're being the best stewards of our clients' money as we possibly can.
Well, Grayson, right now at this time, it's March the 13th, and I don't believe that this country is going into recession. I think what we're going to have is probably a little bit more volatility to get to a point where people get used to how President Trump negotiates. And I think when they start getting used to how he negotiates and where his heart's at, where he wants to take the country, we'll continue to have volatility. But I think long term we have a bright future ahead of us. So we at Christian Values are bullish on the outlook for this year and going forward. Now, there are some companies that will benefit from these tariffs, and that's going to be more like steel companies. They'll benefit. Companies that deal with aluminum, steel, like Nucor and some others, will benefit from this because it makes bringing inexpensive steel from China more expensive. But there's also some companies, Grayson, that may not do so well under tariffs. Can you kind of go into detail about a few of those type companies?
Companies that are reliant on exports or imports, actually, from other countries are going to be the ones that get hurt the most by this. So companies like Apple and Microsoft, even Tesla, that import a lot from China and Indonesia, they're going to be dealing with a lot of the brunt of what is coming from this.
Well, here at Christian Values, we're bullish in 2025 on the stock market, and I believe going forward we'll have some buying opportunity, and I think we are going to have a positive 2025, and we got a positive outlook going forward. But until next time, may God richly bless you.